UK rolls out its grandest welcome in modern history for Trump, motorcade, parade and fireworks. Why Putin wears military uniform at Zapad 2025 training and how German Chancellor outlines core condition for peace deal on Ukraine. The latest news next. US President Donald Trump on Wednesday, September 17th, officially began his unprecedented second state visit to the United Kingdom. It is taking place against the backdrop of diplomatic negotiations and discussions on difficult issues, Reuters reports. King Charles and the royal family hosted the US President with the grand reception at Windsor Castle. For Trump, they prepared a carriage procession, gun salutes, a military flight past, and a lavish banquet. British authorities state that this is the largest ceremonial welcome for a state visit in modern history. Personal sympathies and diplomatic goals. Trump has long shown affection for the British monarchy and became the first elected politician to be invited by the monarch twice. I love King Charles, the US President previously wrote on Truth Social. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer hopes to use the visit to strengthen the special relationship between the two countries. At the center of the talks are the economy, investments, tariffs and support for Ukraine. Ceremonies and visit program. On Wednesday, the program will be fully dedicated to ceremonies. Donald and Melania Trump will be welcomed by Prince William and his wife Kate. Later, King Charles and Queen Camilla will join the presidential couple in the motorcade through the castle grounds, involving 1,300 service members. Trump will visit St. George's Chapel, where he will lay a wreath at the tomb of Queen Elizabeth, who hosted him in 2019. The day will conclude with a banquet and speeches by Charles and Trump. Security concerns and protests. Security is being provided by thousands of law enforcement officers. A large-scale police operation is underway in Windsor, while 1,600 officers have been deployed in London to control protests by the Stop the Trump coalition movement. For Charles himself, the visit may prove ambiguous. His views on ecology, religion, and international relations differ significantly from Trump's. However, the visit gives the monarch unprecedented global attention after his coronation. Further talks and sensitive issues. On Thursday, negotiations will continue at the Prime Minister's country residence, Chequers. Starmer hopes that the focus on the monarchy will help divert attention from sensitive topics, including freedom of speech and the resignation of the UK's ambassador to the US, Peter Mandelson. The scandal over Mandelson's ties with convicted financier Jeffrey Epstein could raise uncomfortable questions for both the British Prime Minister and Trump, whose own connections to Epstein have faced criticism. According to Sky News, as Trump was heading to the US ambassador's residence in central London on Tuesday evening, protesters projected giant images of the president next to pedophile Epstein onto Windsor Castle. Chancellor of Germany Friedrich Merz stated that violations of the borders of NATO allies and pressure on Ukraine are part of the Kremlin strategy. Germany insists on a just peace for Kiev, according to Reuters. Merz emphasized that the war against Ukraine must stop. However, there are fears that it will not end quickly. Merz stated that a peace agreement in the war against Ukraine cannot be achieved at the expense of the political sovereignty and territorial integrity of the country. A dictated peace, a peace without freedom, would encourage Putin to seek his next target, he said, speaking in the Bundestag. According to him, Russia continues the policy of sabotage and testing of borders, violating the airspace of Poland and Romania. Russia wants to insidiously destabilize our free societies, he said. Earlier, the Chancellor of Germany, Friedrich Merz, stated that Europe lacks sufficient influence to compel Russia to cease the war against Ukraine. We are currently unable to exert sufficient pressure on Putin to end this war. We depend on American help, stated Merz. The majority of Ukrainians expect a new attack by Russia even after any peace. The conditional peace plan of Europe, which provides for the freezing of the current line of the front without recognition of occupation, is supported by the majority of citizens. However, it will not be considered a success. On Wednesday, the 17th of September, at a military training ground in Poland, large-scale exercises named Iron Gate start. The maneuvers will take place at the training ground in Orzysz, which is located approximately 100 kilometers from the strategic Suwałki corridor, according to TVP Info. Details of the exercises. The events will be observed by the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of National Defense of Poland, Władysław Kosiniak-Kamysz, as well as the Chief of the General Staff, Wisław Kukula. The maneuvers involve the joint work of armored, mechanized, artillery and air units. For the demonstration, Abrams tanks, K9 howitzers, WR-40 Langusta launchers, RAC motors, Rosama combat vehicles with ZSSW-30 turrets, as well as Pioran and Spike air defense systems will be involved. Air cover will be provided by F-35 and F-16 fighters and AH-64 Apache TAG helicopters. A NATO battalion battle group is already deployed in the region, which includes military personnel from the United States, the United Kingdom, Romania and Croatia. What is known about the exercises? The Iron Gates exercises are part of the large-scale maneuvers Iron Defender, the largest in Poland in 2025. They cover operations on land, sea and in the air with the participation of the Army, Air Force, Navy, special units and territorial defense. In total, about 30,000 soldiers and 600 units of equipment from Poland and NATO countries are involved. Simultaneously, the Polish military is participating in exercises in Lithuania, Latvia and on the Swedish island of Gotland. The day before, a similar demonstration took place in Ustka, where the Patriot system was presented in Poland for the first time. On Thursday, large-scale exercises will continue at the Nowa Dęba training ground. Suwałki Corridor. This is a narrow stretch of territory in northeastern Poland that runs along the Polish-Lithuanian border. It is through this corridor that Poland directly borders Belarus to the east. This section is limited by the Belarusian region, and to the west it adjoins Poland. In fact, it is a 65-kilometer strip between Belarus and Russian Kaliningrad. Therefore, it has strategic significance for NATO, as it is the only land route connecting the Baltic countries with the rest of the alliance. Russian dictator Vladimir Putin appeared in military uniform during the final stage of the Russia-Belarus military exercises Zapad 2025. This is likely a message to NATO countries, which the Kremlin has been regularly threatening in recent months. The US Institute for the Study of War reports. On September 16th, Putin personally visited the Zapad 2025 military exercise area in the Nizhny Novgorod region at the Mulino training ground, where the final stage of the maneuvers took place. The Russian president, the Russian dictator, wore a military uniform. Analysts note that this is only the second time Putin has appeared in a military outfit at a public event since the start of the full-scale invasion of Ukraine. For the first time, he wore a military uniform during a visit to the Kursk region in March 2025. According to RSW, Putin's appearance in military uniform on September 16th may be an attempt to posture Russian-Belarusian military strength against the backdrop of recent Kremlin kinetic and rhetorical escalation against NATO states neighboring Russia. The report emphasizes that this is a message to Poland, Norway, the Baltic states, and Finland, which the Kremlin has been regularly threatening. According to RSW, Defense Minister Andrei Belousov and his deputies attended the exercises alongside Putin. The maneuvers involved units from the Leningrad and Moscow military districts, the aerospace and airborne forces, the Russian fleets, as well as Belarusian forces as part of the Union States combined regional grouping of forces. Putin stated that approximately 100,000 troops participated in the exercises overall, including personnel from 6 foreign countries. Later, the Russian dictator met with military representatives from Bangladesh, India, Burkina Faso, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Mali, and Iran. That's all for today. Thanks for watching this video. Support Ukraine, like and subscribe.